There is a fifth dimension.
About the unknown.
Beyond that which is known to man.
The Garden of Thought.
The Babylon Project was our last best hope for peace.
Unexplained.
Mythologies.
This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call
The Garden of Thought with Jeff Lippman.
Eventually, our sun will grow cold and go out.
You're listening to something much bigger, something hidden in plain sight.
It won't just take us. It'll take Marilyn Monroe and Lao Tzu and Einstein. All of this was for nothing unless we go to the stars.
What you're about to learn will completely change the way you experience your mind, your thoughts, and yourself.
Let's make sure that history never forgets the name.
The Garden of Thought.
Welcome everyone into the garden, and this is a very special episode. Yes, I know I say that every single week, but this one is a little bit more special to me because I am having two of my classmates, not from college, not from law school, not just from high school, not just from middle school, but grade school, going all the way back to grade school. Now, I think that I met both of them in third grade, though it's possible even before that.
Third grade was when they shut down Atlantic Avenue and shipped us to Waverly Park.
Right.
And I met you on the bus because you got on Thixton.
Well, and they shut down. Well, they moved people from Marion Street to Waverly Park, so I switched over too in third grade. Were you always in Waverly Park, Jeff?
I was. So
I started in third grade as well.
So for anyone who hates me and wants to dox me on Thixton, nobody I know lives there any longer. And in fact, the house that I lived in was finally torn down by, I'm sure, some oligarch that built a castle there. Very prime property, but no one that I know lives there. So don't bother. Yes, I was always in Waverly Park. I am the Waverly Park OG. I even went to kindergarten in Waverly Park. Now, Mark Hammer has been on this show 2 or 3 times. And so he's actually the OG of my childhood experiences being here. But DIna, this is your second appearance. The original was When the Levee Breaks, because you're DIna Levy. And that show has been strangely popular, not because there's anything strange about it being popular, but because of the resilience of it being from 2021 about, like, not a topic that's typically visited on this show, which maybe should give me some pause, but it wasn't really about a topic at all. We were just sort of rapping and reminiscing and talking about your music and stuff.
I was telling, but I actually had brunch today with someone from our school who was a grade younger, Leslie Feldman. Do you guys remember her?
No.
Well, she was a grade below us, and she had a brother who was a grade above us. We grew up next door to each other. Anyway, I was telling her how I had to rush home to do this podcast, and I told her I did it once before, and I couldn't remember, was there a theme? Was it horoscopes, or did we just talk about everything and anything? Did it start off as horoscopes, and then it morphed into...
I don't know. Talking about, like, sort of like the music business and the movie business. It was like you and Mark together on the same show?
No. But it definitely wasn't about horoscopes. But if you ever want to do horoscopes, let me know.
There's a lot of your stuff, Jeffy.
We talked about like everything and anything, but I don't remember if there was supposed to be a theme.
I don't either, and it's not even important. But it's strangely popular. So go check it out when the Levee. I think maybe because we got a little bit into like actual like real life issues as opposed to my usual stuff, and maybe people like that.
We talked about the Mayor. I think there was like some mayor stuff, which is kind of funny because we have mayor stuff going on again here, but.
Yes, you do. Indeed, you do.
Anyway, but we digress.
Indeed. And Joey Restivo, so Joey, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's like thinking about just the theme of When the Levee Breaks, but I remember like I listened to a lot of your stuff, Jeff.
Thank you.
And there was one where DIna, you were on talking about the music business, and maybe it was a separate one where Mark was talking about the movie business. There
was.
Maybe I'm getting them conflated.
You are.
But anyway, it's all the good stuff. It's like, but it's really just it's funny how we just mentioned that how hey we all came together in third grade, and now we're like talking about something really dark.
Yes, so I should probably say it, but for those, since it was mentioned, Mark Hamill is a producer. He's held every production level in Hollywood, and I'm pretty sure it's episode 35 rather. I think it's called A Hollywood Tale. So, I mean, literally, if you want to get clarification on every single credit that has production or producer in the name of it at the end of credits in TV and movies, Mark actually went through every single one of them and told exactly what they did and what the difference was between the movie and TV.
I never understood what a key grip was and all this other stuff was until I listened to your episode. Now I totally got it, understood what all those different roles were. It was like he explained it really well.
No, he was great. It was terrific. He also spent some time on our Land of the Lost retrospective until we all realized the Land of the Lost it had no secret meanings. It had no deep knowledge. It was just some stone guys who came up with a silly television show. So anyway, as Joey, I still call you Joey. Is it okay to call you Joey? Should I call you Joe now that you're a grown up?
Actually, I go by Joey. You know why?
Okay, good.
Just because it's really a lot cooler. Forget about it. How you doing?
Joey, all right.
How you doing?
How you doing?
It's like, when I was growing up, it didn't seem all that cool. And I'll tell you why, because my father was named Joe, and he was Uncle Joe, and I was Baby Joey, and I hated to be called Baby Joey. But there became a time when it became cool to say, how you doing?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I was Joey.
There you go.
So even though my email account, I guess it says, I typed in that, it says, my email actually is Joey Restivo at Gmail.
I thought so. Yeah.
So I'm Joey. Just call me Joey. I love it. But it's like my stage name too. And I actually, when I type my name, put my name on the chalkboard or the dry erase board at open mic, I type Joey with umlauts over the E. So I call myself Joey Umlaut, which is almost like, hey, Joey Bag of Donuts from what we're talking
Andrew
about.
Dice Clay, yeah.
Hey, it's Joey Bag of Donuts, but it's Joey Umlaut.
Yeah, but it's also almost like Joey Omelet, which
Joey Omelet, Joey Umlaut, Joey Bag of Donuts, or better yet, Joey Butterfuko.
Oh no, that's not better yet. All right, shut up. We have an entire season 1. So this show is going to be about Dark, which is a show that's on Netflix. I'm sure it didn't start there. It is a German show, and people asked me to watch it, or they assumed I had watched it. And I think I have seen parts of it before because some of it seemed very familiar, but I definitely didn't watch the whole thing. They told me sort of on the heels of doing the Law show I should watch it. And I'm like, okay, I'm watching it, but I'm not doing the show myself. A, I don't know if I'm going to like it. B, I don't like doing solo shows. So Joe volunteered to do it, and then he sort of volunteered DIna to do it, who, being that she was volunteered of Joe's own free will and volition, she said, okay. So for those of you who haven't seen the show Dark, there's going to be spoilers, and it's going to be replete with spoilers. We're not trying to save everything. This show is years old, and we might not even be right, but there's 3 seasons of it, and our goal, despite our banter here, is to cover each season in one show. So this will probably be a trilogy. If we go faster, we go faster. If we go slower, we'll speed it up. All right. Dark. Joe, set it up for us. What is Dark about, and how would you divide season 1 from the other 2 seasons so we sort of stay on a roadmap?
It's hard to explain, so the way I think about it was that you think about the original Godfather movies, forget 3, just 1 and 2, right? They were not set up in sequential order because one was like, Godfather 2 was part prequel and part sequel and everything else. But if you watched them in sequential order, Godfather 1, Godfather 2, it felt like it was out of order, because it was. But then if you watch something called The Godfather Saga, which shows everything in order from when he lands, in Manhattan, does everything, and you understand what's going on with the 4 families, right? And so I'm looking at my notes now, between the Dopplers, the Nielsen, the Commonwealth, and Tiedemans, right? And it really starts, way back in the day in 53, right? So it's like, it doesn't start where we really think it starts with him hanging himself. It actually starts way before. So you almost have to think about it. Just if you rewatch it and say, wow, how does this thing really play out? It plays out completely differently, right? So it's kind of like, I think, The Godfather. So, and it's just crazy how everything kind of like plays out. So it's time shifting and everything in the craziest way, which I know, Jeff, you and I talked about that, how I know we disagreed on Lost a little bit, but I think Lost really made this thing possible.
Yeah.
Because the craziness of the time shifting and everything between the different versions of time only became possible because something like Lost happened like in 2004 or whatever the hell that happened. And this was like 2018, 2019 when this came out. So it's just like, it's a whole different thing. So that's the way I'll set it up. It's like there's this 4 families, and I liken it to like sort of like The Godfather, because there's like the 4 families of Godfather. And then there's this time frame that happens differently than the way it's actually pursued, the way that at least season 1 comes out. Because in season 1, there's 3 times, right? There's 53, 86, and 19 or 18, whatever.
Yeah.
We see a lot more after that, or hints of that. But you don't really see it when you're watching the first episode or 2. You have no idea what's really going on. It's
None whatsoever.
Crazy.
Right.
And then by the time episode 3, 4 comes out, it just blows your mind. It's like, where the hell are we? How the hell did we get here? Because in Lost, it took literally like 15, 20 episodes before they really blew your mind. Like with time shifting and stuff. Here, 2 or 3 episodes in, you're already blown away. So that's why I said I need to rewatch this. And I don't know how the heck connected on Facebook and said, hey, you wanted to watch for the first time, I'm going to rewatch it for the second time, and it just blew me away.
Dina, what say you?
Well, I just rewatched it too. I had watched it a while ago, and I never finished. I don't remember if I finished season 2, and I definitely didn't watch season 3. So I rewatched 1. I liked it. I remember at the time liking it, but by mid to end of second season, I didn't like it as much. I mean, just to give a quick synopsis of what it's about, because I don't think we said that. It's about these families in Germany, starting in 2019, and it's a small town, and they're all intertwined, and they grew up together, and some kids have gone missing. And there's a nuclear power plant, and kids keep going missing, and it revolves around a cave and a nuclear power plant. I mean, I like it. I haven't finished I know we're only talking about season 1 yet, but I just started season 3, and I'm already thinking it doesn't seem as good, but, I mean, I think it's like a little confusing, even though you can follow the time. I mean, Jeff and I talked about this, like I had to look up a chart that I took a screenshot of the families, like a family tree. I can't keep track of who's who because everybody's being played by, I mean, it's not the only show or movie like this, but, characters are being played by 2 or 3 different actors from the different time periods that they're going back and forth from. And there's, I guess you would call it time travel, or they're going through these caves and they're going back to other time periods. So,
right. And
one thing I don't like, which I don't know if this becomes, what's the word, if they unravel this a little bit more in season 3 or explain whether this is true or not. And obviously it's just a show, but there's been several mentions of how there's no free will, and I did not believe that. So,
right.
There's 2 sides, like there's 2 different. Well, maybe again that goes further on to the next season, but 2 different sides of like people that are trying to do something. You know, you don't know which ones are the good ones and which ones are the bad ones, but you know, they're saying it's all kind of like out of your control, which I believe that, you know, life is a combination of things that are in your control and things that are not in your control.
Well, I mean, listen, there's from religions, old religions, you know, fate is inexorable, the Furies, the Norns, to other philosophies, to the whole concept of the world's a matrix, you know, it resonates, you know, obviously throughout at least recent human history in that, you know, we're talking about where we know that there's been writing and those stories came earlier. So at least for the last few millennia. So this show, numbers loom large. Now, I vary from minute to minute sometimes on how long. So there were a lot of red herrings and MacGuffins, but I'm not sure they really were red herrings or MacGuffins. So
what does that mean again? Like
red herring is a false flag, basically, something that you're chasing after that doesn't really matter. MacGuffin is sort of like, it's a plot device, but you never know what it is, but it's extremely important. But you don't, like, the most prototypical or quintessential MacGuffin is the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. You don't know what's in it, but everybody wants it. All right. So anyway, Season 1, my notes are all about typical Garden of Doom, Garden of Thought kind of things. I'm looking for numerology. I'm looking for symbols. I'm looking for comparative mythology. And they tease me. They tease me with things like Ariadne, who was the daughter who let Theseus use her thread so that he could go kill the Minotaur and find his way out of the labyrinth, to help him cheat, you know, to the consternation of her father. These were 33-year cycles. Well, 33 is, you know, I mean, the parallel, the levels of the Masons, the supposed age of Jesus, and the supposed age of when the Antichrist takes his rule. I mean, 33's everywhere. And I'm looking at all of these things, and they're talking about how time repeats and time's going to happen again. They've got the infinity symbol. And so this is all of my stuff. So I'm like, whoa. So I'm following all the red herrings and whatever. And because it's German, and because the accents, and because the names are not really gender specific to me, to an English speaker, I don't know that Helgi is a guy's name. I don't know that Tronti is a man's name. And with the exception of Katarina, I think the casting between the ages was generally terrible. Like, the people don't resemble each other at all in their different ages. That said, I think I did not use the chart. I think using the chart was smart. But you're absolutely right. We should frame it. There is a nuclear plant. It obviously plays a key role. It is in the wake of Chernobyl. It's not Chernobyl, but that's definitely very much in people's mind's eye. The nuclear power plant, as we understand it, was developed to basically save this town from coal and its industry. It's pivotal to the local economy. It is going to be closed, probably because of Chernobyl. And of course, there's secrets, and there's secrets everywhere. There's secrets in the plant. All these people have had affairs, or there's been killings. The whole thing is about knots upon knots upon knots. So of course, I'm thinking like maybe the nuclear plant, sort of like Lost, and I was very Lost influence at the time, that maybe it puts a cap on the portal, which, you know, winding it down, maybe that's weakening the cap. That's not exactly, that turned out not to be right. And of course, I'm doing the whole hero's journey thing. The cave, is that an underworld entry? And the nuclear plant door, is that the same as the plaque? Nope. And the plaque basically was like the creation of the world, society.
The plaque in the cave? The plaque in the cave?
Which also changed from time to time.
So whatever, the three things,
the triquenta, the Trinity knot.
Trinity knot.
The Trinity knot. Yeah, I went into a deep dive on the Trinity knot, and I'm just gonna tell everyone, it doesn't matter. Just know that there's an obsession with the show in threes, and there's a knot. But for most of season 1, they ignore the triple aspect of it, and that was sort of made me giggle a little bit. All right, so it starts off sort of as a horror movie. Basically, you've got kids wandering through the woods. Something crazy happens in a cave, and things change. There seems like there's someone stalking who's menacing. Of course, it turns out that he's a priest. He's not a priest. He's a minister. Some of these little things that make big differences were not really spelled out, or at least not to me. But the central character, if there is one, is a kid named Jonas. And what's a little bit frustrating about this show is, I mean, they use a lot of biblical names, so of course it's sending me down those red herrings again.
Yeah, but you know what? Did you get any Donnie Darko vibes from this at all?
I don't remember Donnie Darko, and do not make me on another podcast.
I think I watched that once a million years ago. Yeah, so
yeah, I don't.
But there was I think they played a Tears for Fears song in one of the episodes. Look at my notes here.
They did.
3, and it really
everybody wants to rule the world.
Donnie Darko for me, where Donnie Darko had a lot to do with time travel and all this crazy shit. It's very, very similar to this. It's almost like I felt like they were like really like dropping an Easter egg, so to speak, on the whole Donnie Darko movie, so to speak. Anyway, I wasn't sure if any of you picked up on that.
I know. Now I feel like I need to see Donnie Darko. Thanks a lot. So the door, which seems not to be something that should be opened easily, opens easily for Jonas. So we know something is up. There's power fluctuations all throughout the town, like from things that are plugged in to things that are batteries, like car headlights, even flashlights, very electromagnetic pulse kind of thing, not limited to landline power. There's a second door. And so, listen, without going through all of my little musings and meanderings, which were largely red herrings, maybe, it turns out that this is a gateway, at least we find out here, to 1986. And I was of the impression that at the time Chernobyl opened that, but no, I think it's just to give us a point in time.
It's just like a passage back from wherever they happen to be, like 2019, right? Wasn't necessarily Chernobyl.
Well, in 1986 was about Chernobyl, but yeah, I think Chernobyl was just about the nuclear fear, and just I think it was just to give us a point in time to make it clear. But I'm trying to avoid the things that were sidetracks, but I want people to know why I'm so sidetracked. So I'm like going nuclear energy and divine evil tied together, which, you know, that's been said in certain esoteric modern communities. So we see what I call a ghost. I don't think that they're ghosts more than flashbacks. But of course, I think it's a ghost because I think we're doing supernatural. And it's not supernatural. It's more like quantum. The dead father of Jonas. I'm going to save this. And as it turns out, Jonas's father is a kid named Mikkel who lives at the same time that Jonas is a teenager. I don't know how old these kids are, but I'm assuming that most of them are between, with a few exceptions, 15 to 18. Turns out that Mikkel,
who's younger,
much younger, who's probably like 10, yeah,
right? Yeah,
10-ish.
Like prepubescent Mikkel.
Yeah.
Yes. Prepubescent Mikkel is around the same age as another kid who disappeared, who strangely doesn't come up that much except for a kid that disappeared. Grew up.
But it was like he was interacting with Hannah and, what's her name?
Regina
and
Katerina.
Right?
Yeah.
When they were in high school, right. Yeah, in 1986.
Which was really kind of like crazy, because that was like, you know, and it was funny because that was like 1986 high school.
Yeah.
And it really kind of felt like 1986 high school.
No, it did.
Yeah. Yeah, we know about that. So Mikkel went back in time to 1986 and then was mingling with these teenagers who are the adults in his time in 2019, basically.
Including his parents.
His parents, yep.
Which he sort of figured out slowly.
And his uncle and his
wife Hannah, right?
It's crazy.
Right. Mikkel, so to cut through a lot of stuff, Mikkel they knew he was a little bit weird. They knew he didn't have parents. They were going to send him to foster care. A nurse who took a liking to him ended up adopting him, changed his name to Michael. He grew up to be Michael Waldman or Conwald, something like that. And Mikkel ended up being Jonas's father. So we have our first little strike there. And Jonas had a romantic entanglement at some point, what comes up again, with Mikkel's sister, Martha. So if you're paying attention, it's Jonas's aunt.
It's very confusing.
It's a little bit confusing, and it's a little troubling because it's trying to make you think, because they keep saying, we're all wrong. We're the perfect pair. Never forget that. And they go back and forth. And I keep thinking, is this like a tale about like incest being wrong? And maybe it is on some level, but that's not really what it was about. It just makes the weirdness. Then I had another meta question about...
It's like a side thing that says, is it relevant or not? Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so many side things. Like there's a treasure box with a tree of life on it. Of course, I'm making a big deal about that. Anyway, Mikkel goes missing. Kid named Daniel goes missing for 2 weeks. They basically do a good job of telling you what timeline we're in through the outfits, but also the music. They give us, like, we hear Dead or Alive, and then very like 1980s music when they're in the 1980s. They do a very good job with the music and the tech. We find a dead kid who's not Mikkel with his eyes, basically like if you were wearing a sleeping mask, but that entire shape of his head or ski goggles are burned off, burned solid, seared. It turns out that is Mikkel's father's missing brother from 1986 named Mads.
Ulrich's brother named Mads, yeah.
Right.
Who was the kid that went missing in the 80s, yeah.
Right. And there's a copper penny, which I thought it was a U.S. penny, but it turns out it was a German penny. Though maybe it went back and forth, I'm not sure, but that plays some role, but it didn't play as important a role. I mean, it did, but it wasn't like crucial. It was just to help us find things. All right. So
there was the stranger comes in who we later find out is Jonas, right? I'm not sure when that comes about, like, because this other person keeps wandering around with the yellow jacket, right?
Yeah, the rain slicker.
Another version of Jonas, yeah.
A very 1980s yellow rain slicker.
It's like really kind of crazy. And one of the things that really, so I'm not sure when Townhouse comes about, he's the clockmaker, right? Townhouse?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if this is a reference to Blade Runner, and maybe it is, but I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Blade Runner or how familiar you are with it.
That I've seen.
At the very end, Roy mentions Tannhouse's gate, which is just, I think, just extremely, like, coincidental. So he talked about, like, blood running at Tannhouse's gate, whatever. So anyway, just, like, I think about all these little, like, references to other stuff, whether it's Donnie Darko or whatever. But I'm not sure if any of you picked up on that.
No, not at all.
Probably not.
Wait, but I also want to bring up something that I feel like they like forgot about it at some point, at least unless it comes back up in season 3. But what about the room that they're taking kids to? It's like this room that's decorated like a 1970s bedroom.
Well, that's the bunker.
Yeah, that's the bunker.
But it's not always the bunker. Like
it's always the
over time,
right
depending on which timeline you're in.
No, but my question is, like, somebody's bringing kids there. It's almost like
Helga was doing it at one point, and then the other point, who was doing it?
And they're doing something to the kids where they're putting something on their head.
That was the initial time machine. I think they were trying to work out.
Right. So remember.
I just started season 3, and I feel like I know we're only going over one today, But there's been so many episodes, and they completely stopped showing that. That ceases to exist. Does it come up again? Or
It does. It doesn't cease to exist, but I'm not sure it gets any clear. So the bunker. Remember, I think it's pretty clear we're in East Germany, and this is a rich family built a nuclear bunker on their property. So that's what it's a fallout bunker, and it is used for all the kinds of things a bunker would be used for. Kids play in it. Maybe people try to hide crimes there. A mad scientist tries to build time machines there. And as a result of his various degrees of success, it becomes a place for portal. It becomes one of the doorways, but usually it's a one-way doorway, although you can see both ways. I think that...
Or it's a place to hook up.
Or it's a place to hook up, and it's also a place to put conspiracy charts on the wall. But there's no shortage of those. They have plenty of them there if you want to screenshot and hit pause. But I think for the purposes of this, trying to keep track of all the characters will be here 72 days, which is also biblical. So anyway, I mean, some of the other weird things that happen is when the EMP pulses, birds drop dead out of the sky. We don't really see any other animals dying. And I really thought that was going to be a bigger deal. That was really spooky. It reminded me of The Omen and stuff like that. But nah, it's just telling you that something really big is happening. So, all right, we get to Noah, and there's always a lot of rain. Sometimes it looks like it's snow. Sometimes maybe it's nuclear winter, but we get a guy named Noah. And of course, so many of the names are biblical. It matters, but it really doesn't. Or at least in my opinion, it doesn't really matter, because Noah wasn't leading anyone to an ark. Nobody's really ageless or immortal. This is not a show about demons or devils. So despite me wanting that to be, or thinking that's where it was going, it's not. It's mostly quantum stuff. It doesn't take us to the lost Jacob and his smoke monster brother, who's, whatever, a djinn or whatever. The unifying ties seem to be the school, the power plants, the victims, who sometimes started out as bullies, but it turns out everyone's a victim and a bully in their own way. Everyone's flawed, but they keep making it sound like this town, but I think it's every town. I mean, I think that's the lesson we're supposed to learn, is there was nothing particularly unusual about this town other than the spate of missing children. I mean, people have affairs, people cheat, people lie, people commit crimes. So we were led to believe this town, I think it's called Tindom or whatever, or why, it doesn't matter. Wyndham, that it was specially evil, hell portal central. It's not. I think it's just regular town.
It was so there's the Greek mythology involved in, Marta's play, where there's that red string, and then the red string shows up sort of in the mine or whatever, where they follow it. But I forget what the name of that play was that Marta was in.
Ariadne. It's Ariadne.
Yeah, so there's
King Minos's daughter.
You think there's some mythology associated with Wyndham and whatever that Greek thing is, or
no? Yeah, King Minos was on Crete. I mean, that's where the Minotaur was. That's where Theseus killed the Minotaur. Remember, King Minos. It doesn't matter. The Minotaur is his son or his stepson or something like that, and he so instead of killing him, he because he pulled the bait and switch on, I think, Zeus, and got cursed for it. But basically, Ariadne, the Minotaur is supposed to kill everyone, but Ariadne fell in love with Theseus, Hercules' cousin or something, who I thought was a pure hero, but apparently, like most Greek mythologies, he's pretty terrible as well. But she gives him a thread so that he could find his way through. So that's Ariadne's thread. And yes, Ariadne is repeatedly said, but other than it being a thread and maybe there being some betrayal of your family in there in some level, I don't know that it was nearly as important as I wanted it to be, or as they made you look at. We have kids becoming people of authority. So like Ulrich, who's a bad kid, becomes a cop, mostly because he blames what he thinks is a bad cop for botching the investigation into his brother. Now, the bad cop is a drunk, but he didn't become a drunk for no reason. And as what happens in this show, everything is twisted and turned and interrelated, sometimes through time traveling, where Ulrich may have played some role in Egon becoming the bad cop, but he wasn't a bad cop at the time. In fact, he was a very good cop, or at least tried to be. And 1953 is like 8 years after Germany lost the war. And so, I have to believe that East Germany didn't have a whole lot of resources back there. And there's like I'm thinking about that, but like Ulrich is completely blinded to that. He's completely blinded to a lot of things. I guess not as blind as his poor little brother. But the body of Mads, who is recovered, even though was missing, and his body sort of pops up a few different times. I had trouble keeping track of that. I called Helgi a gatekeeper. I don't think that turned out not to be fair. Again, I was looking for like Virgil, or kind of the gatekeeper, like the River Styx, Sharon kind of parallels. It's not that. He's a fan of Regina's. He has scars mangled around his left ear. It's been completely destroyed, and that's because Ulrich thought if he kills him in the past, he could stop Mads and other children from being killed. Turns out he didn't kill him. And it turns out Helgi, I'm not quite sure had anything to do with the kids missing anyway. He's just sort of a simpleton. But he's related to a family that's tied into the Tiedemans, who basically are a wealthy family who have continuity with the nuclear plant. I feel like I'm talking way too much.
No, well, you did a lot. You took a lot more notes than me, so.
Yeah, but it's like they were in the nuclear plant, but don't forget the guy that's currently running the nuclear plant just happened to just show up, right? When Regina was like in the woods, and he's not even a Tiedemann, right?
No, he's married. He's married to the daughter.
And
obviously, the mother disappears, right? And the daughter doesn't want to run the plant. I guess. Well, he was working for the mother. What's the mother's name?
Claudia.
Claudia. He was working for her. Remember, she wanted. He came looking for a job. She had him hide some stuff, and then I guess she disappeared, and he must have taken over the plant, right? I mean,
yeah, we should clarify this. So Claudia, who we're not clear is a villain or a hero. I'm not sure that we're ever clear on it because I don't think anybody is. I think that's most of the story.
You never know who's villain or not.
Right. So Claudia's parents, the Tiedemans, brought the plant to the area over objections of the coal industry and some other things, but I can't exactly remember how, but the plant got built in 53.
Is she related to Helgi or no? How is he related to her? I don't remember.
It's their son. It's Tiedemann's kid.
So is Claudia his sister though?
I can't even keep track of that. I'm not sure.
Because if they're both Tiedemans, yeah.
Wait, so the guy running the plant is not a Tiedemann. He just took her name.
Right. He was a local rough who, when Regina, who was sort of like the geeky girl out, was being bullied by some other kids, he came out of the woods.
Showed up with a gun
and scared them off. Turns out he had what appears to be a bullet wound in the shoulder. She cared for him, kept the secret. He went to Claudia. He went to her mom at the nuclear plant looking for work because he's older. Regina, probably 15-ish, 16-ish. He's probably 19-ish, something like that. Obviously on the run, committed a crime. He had passports of kids who presumably he murdered or killed. Later on, he says it's self-defense. It really doesn't matter. It's, unless.
No, wait. If we flash forward, Hannah has the evidence of that.
Exactly. So that
blackmails him later on, so to speak.
Well, that's the thing, is that Claudia knows he has a secret, but he has a secret too. The job she gave him was to hide nuclear waste, which they seem to try to hide it a couple of times, different times, but it always ends up back in the nuclear plant. And basically, his name is Alexander, and he takes the last name of the family Tiedemann because otherwise nobody would know who he was, and he gets legitimized by being in the important family in town. But he basically cemented over an old storage room, and welded the door shut and cemented the ceiling of it so that it's an encapsulated cement room with nuclear waste. But as anybody knows about nuclear waste these days, that's really not enough. And for the purposes of the show, it's important, but it's the mutual blackmail that's the important thing. She had him do a dirty job. She kept his secret, let her marry the daughter, and I'm not sure the daughter ever really knew of the secret until the end. But I mean, it's important, but it's just important in the constant knot that happens over these 33-year generations or time periods, or so we're led to believe. Just remember what I said about the triquinta at the height of it. Now, in 2018, which is, I guess, our prime time, though it's hard to say which it is, Ulrich is a police officer, still obsessed with Mads. He's wants to find this kid Eric, and then his son Mikkel, who was contemporaneously living there as Michael. So forget that notion of every science fiction show you've ever seen before, that if two people are in the same place from different times, the world blows up like antimatter. That doesn't exist here. I cannot tell you how many times I got lost in my own thoughts about that. Don't. There's a police captain. Her name is Charlotte. And her husband... She's a Doppler, right? Which is a fun name.
She's not really a Doppler, though, is she? Though
no, she. We learn she's been adopted by Tannhaus and raised by Tannhaus as a baby. She also has a husband named Peter, who in this iteration he's a closeted homosexual and is seen I'm going to say, I don't think it's trans. I think it's just a transvent type, but it's a male prostitute who dresses like a woman.
No, I think it's a transgender person.
Okay.
Because there's I don't remember if it's season 1 or season 2, where, I forget, Charlotte's daughter, I don't remember her name, is bringing her.
Oh, you were right. She's bringing her trans therapy. Okay.
Oh, yeah, Francesca. So yeah, Charlotte and Peter have 2 daughters. One is Francesca, who is... One's the deaf girl.
Right. She's Elizabeth. And Elizabeth is...
later on, crazy enough.
Yeah. Elizabeth's much
younger. I don't even see, maybe like many other things in the show, I don't see why this storyline means anything to the show. That the husband is going to visit somebody on the side. Like, what does that have to do with anything?
Well, wasn't he helping with the barrels, hiding the barrels or something like that?
Who was?
Peter, I don't think so.
I don't know. There were these trucks outside her trailer.
There was a truck outside with the
2 trucks.
These little barrels in it. He might not have been responsible for it, but I think it brought it into...
I know, but I just don't know why that storyline means anything to the...
No, I do. I'll tell you why. Because the guy who drove the truck, we see him every now and then, who Alexander sort of has, that was his truck. And he was a trucker, so they lived in an RV, like I think in the same area. The point is, it doesn't matter whether the person was transvestite or whatever.
It just, I think it just helped put perspective on Claudia. Not Claudia, on Charlotte. How, she seemed like she was like a powerful in control because she was the police chief and whatever else. But she had this like messed up life where she was married to homosexual and she wasn't admitting it. It's like.
All right. And again, I'm not being a pain in the ass, but if you guys are going to think I'm crazy, but if you are a male and you date a woman who's transgender, you're not a homosexual. Just an FYI.
Okay.
No, I'm saying that.
I'm telling you.
Let me just cut this whole thing off here and just say
but if you are a man and you're dating a female, a woman who's transgender, you are not a homosexual.
All right. Well,
Just telling.
okay, take two on the cutting this part off. All I'm saying, the only point of it is that everyone has secrets and side things. That's it. Is that they all have secrets, and there's no perfect. They all have hidden stories. They all have hidden lives, including Francesca, who. Some of the story is that apparently Eric was a local drug dealer, low-end drug dealer, and some of the kids are trying to inherit the business, and they think Francesca is trying to take over this non-business. As it turns out, she's not. She's providing gender-affirming care to I forget their name. I honestly do. And all of that is a red herring. It's only to show you that Francesca has a secret life too, and they all have secrets. That's and
right, and so does the father, and
right, and a lot of it sort of stems near train tracks that are in the wood that are perilously close to this cave, which is one of the junction points. So, all right, so we then move on to so in making things a little bit weirder, Ulrich in 2018 is having an affair with a woman named Hannah. Hannah is married to Michael. So Ulrich is having an affair with his youngest son's wife. And for a bunch of the show, he's trying to chase after Jonas, who is his paramour's child. I don't know. Again, I'm not sure that any of these relationships actually matter, except that they're all twisted and they connect everything in what I would say the whole premise of the triquint is a lie. It's more like a knot of rubber band balls. I mean, it's all over the place. Maybe that's just because I'm intellectually lazy and couldn't try to parse it all out and didn't look at that chart.
It's pretty confusing. No, it does. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's you.
We get some things like statements like a life for a life. So again, we're getting mystical. For a while, I thought Helgi was sort of like Jacob and Noah was like the smoke monster. No, it's not. Stop with the loss, Jeff. But I learned that along the way. To make matters worse, what sort of starts off the journey of Jonas is that his father, Michael, remember Mikkel, killed himself. He hung himself. We are not exactly sure why he did it, other than maybe he thought that was his part in ending the story, but there's not a whole lot on Michael as an adult. He seemed to be tortured. He seemed to have agoraphobia. He seemed to maybe be an artist.
Wait, it's that note, though. That note seems to, just move through time, though, that he wrote, right? And everyone seems to pop up with that note, through the next couple of seasons, even, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I think he's tortured because he knows, the truth, or maybe he doesn't understand it, but he knows that he was Mikkel, and he went back in time, and then he grew up, and now he's Michael, and maybe he sees that other kid, Mikkel, in the same time frame as him now, who's him when he was a kid, and he must be he either think he's insane or going out of his mind, or he's tortured. But I think that's why he killed himself. Imagine if it was you and you went back in time and then you were raised by someone else, you grew up, got married, and then your neighbor has a kid who's really you. You'd probably think you were insane, right?
Right, and your wife's having an affair with his father.
So he could stop it all?
Wait, what?
That he, by committing suicide, he might bring an end to it all? That was the
possibly,
whole thing
possibly,
between Jonas, right, his son, who's gone through the whole thing where he thought he could stop it, but created the black hole and started it all over again. Michael, whatever, said, hey, if I just kill myself, I might just bring this whole thing to an end. But where it's, what does he bring it to an end? It's just this endless cycle of madness, really. It's just kind of crazy.
Right, and I initially assumed it was a suicide note, but as you said, it's been a note that's passed through, and I don't think the note...
He wrote a note to his grandmother that said, don't open until, this date, right?
Right, exactly, when she opened up the box. And so I think Dina's right. I'd like to think that he thought he was stopping it, but I don't think so. I think he was just a tormented soul, and we can understand why. I hope we've done a good enough job of it, but I think I'm going to leave. that alone. So Jonas somehow traveled. So he's the first time traveler, or that we meet anyway. But young Jonas travels. All right. I'm forget that. Scratch that. I'm not editing it out. I'm not finishing that thought. Somebody said, or maybe I said this. This might have been my thoughts. I typed "hell on earth" as having your own sins in your face and knowing what they cost you. Did someone say that on the show, or did I just type that in a strange moment of lucidity?
I don't know.
Because I'm not that good a writer.
I am thinking to myself as we're going through this show that if anybody listens to this show and didn't watch Dark, they are going to have zero clue as to what we're talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah, this
show is so confusing.
Yeah.
Even if you get it.
Yeah. Okay. So if anyone's concerned about that, including our guests, this will not replace a regular episode. These 3 shows will be supplementary. We're going to call it a limited series. So
you have to watch this show.
I'm just thinking how can
clue we're talking about.
That's what I'm saying. Like this is there's no way you would have any idea what we're talking about if you didn't watch the show, because it's so confusing.
But if you don't want to watch the show and you want to continue listening, go Google Dark, family ties chart, and put the screenshot on your screen, and you'll probably understand it better than our recollection of it and my notes. So
maybe spoilers for future seasons in this season 1 thing that we talked about.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
We did you guys mention?
Yeah, did you guys watch all 3 seasons?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I'm halfway through, or maybe 3/4 way through the 3rd season.
All right, I just started.
I've been so distracted with other stuff on Apple TV and whatever else.
Don't worry about it. You guys, don't worry. We'll go at your pace. Okay, so Joey, what has every time travel show ever taught us, except besides that if you meet yourself, everything blows up? How do you get from one place to another? What do you need?
So here's an interesting thing.
Wait, just answer the question. Answer the question.
Yes. So
yes is not the answer.
The word Doppler, right? So there's the Doppler effect, which we know what it is. It's sort of like the whole thing around
radar.
There's another thing called, I would encourage you to look it up, called the Doppler broadening, which actually is a time travel type effect. So maybe both of you just Google something called Doppler broadening and say, hey, do you think they just actually came across Doppler on their own, or they just, wow, this is something else going on here? Because don't forget that Charlotte is not really a Doppler. She's a townhouse, right? Or whatever.
No, she's not really a townhouse.
The clock, and it's really weird how, that's not the clock, the time machine, but Claudia comes back in time from 60 years, 53 years in the future, and gives them the plans. And so it's like the way the whole time machine thing.
Hold on a second. I'm not sure that we ever are told specifically what Charlotte is. I think that she's Hannah and Egon's kid.
Wait, Charlotte?
Okay, stop. I'm going to stop because that's season 3.
That's okay. I was going to say
we declare spoilers are declared.
I know, but this is a spoiler for the two of you, and I might be wrong.
No. I mean, I didn't even watch season 3 yet. I just started. But even in season 2, they start to allude to the fact that Hannah's father is Noah, right?
Yes.
Charlotte's
father.
Charlotte. Yeah, Charlotte's father is Noah, but I'm not sure who her mother is.
Oh, that's right. I'm not. Oh, her mother's probably No, that would be the sister. Never mind. Stop.
No, and who is Agnes or something?
Agnes is Noah's sister, who's
the hot woman in the.
You're right.
Elliot house.
In the 50s, and they were recruited. All right, we're getting ahead.
Was she in the 50s? I don't remember.
She
red dress.
Oh, the one that visits. Okay.
No. Her and her son. She shows up. The father was missing, and she becomes a boarder in the Doppler household.
Okay.
Okay. So the correct answer to the question, Joey, was a totem. And so I thought that the copper penny maybe was a totem to get you, to anchor you so you could go back and forth in time. So listeners, if you thought the same thing, no, it's not. It is not at all the same thing. So at some point so they're very careful to give us the dates. I was not very careful to take the dates, but I was able to figure out that between 1953 and 1986 is 33 years, and between 1986 and 2019 is also 33 years. And those years seem to be important, although time did advance in the other seasons. So 1953 might continue to 54, and 86 would continue into 87, and 2019 would continue to 2021 until the show would end. So it's not exactly 33-year cycles. That just seems to be the window, but time continues moving forward. All right.
Yeah, so that's a really key point, is that time is moving forward in each of the time frames.
Yes.
Right? And it doesn't become apparent until, like, I don't know, with season 2 or season 3, that it's not always 2019 or 53 or whatever else. Like you said, Jeff, it's like it's moving forward in all the time frames, which is hard to really wrap your head around until you actually think about it just the way you said it.
It's also hard because their homes are the same. I mean, there's a little bit of change in decor and designing, but not really, because I mean it's East Germany and it's poor, but their outfits and hairstyles change.
I think also is that the time machine that's like built into the mountain, right, always feels like it's locked into like a specific 33 years fixed point, where the actual time machine in the suitcase feels like it allows you to dial in to your current point in time. It's still 33 years, but it gives you a little bit more leeway, as opposed to the one that's like hardwired into the mountain.
Now, I feel compelled.
All the nuclear waste, right?
Yes. I feel compelled as a lawyer right now to say that there's something called the rule against perpetuities. And it says that no contract can be enforceable if it cannot be executed fully after the life of the last person in being plus 99 years. So I don't know if the rule against perpetuities in 99 years has anything to do with it, but if any of you have ever seen contracts that they never go past 99 years, that's why. By the way, silly story for the bar exam. There were 2 competing bar courses. One tried to teach them at excruciating level about the rule against perpetuities. Mine said, if you see this scenario, these questions, that's a question about the rule against perpetuities. Pick D, move on, don't waste your time. So they said it's a pass-fail test. Okay, so you kids taking the bar, or you young adults? I passed.
That 99 years is 33 times 3?
That's exactly right. So here's the important thing about what is actually important about the coin, in that it is sort of evidence. But in 1953, 2 bodies of children were found near the groundbreaking of the power plant. Turns out and 2 1986 coins were found there with the similar eye melts and in-the-ear destruction. I have to be honest, at this point, I don't remember who those 2 bodies were. I just want to point that that's one of the reasons why the coins are important, and don't go beyond that.
But there were also 2 dead bodies, like 2 dead kids from 86 too, right?
Right. So I mean, yes, I think the implication is that they were moved back in time, but I don't remember that happening. But that just could be that.
I don't think they show it.
Yeah, it just could be that I don't remember.
Bodies, and then they were investigating, and they ended up framing
Helgi.
Right. No, but I don't think they should. No, they frame Ulrich.
Oh, right. Well, they assume it's Ulrich.
They show how the bodies get there. They show the bodies. They just appear. Yeah.
Buried in the dirt, right?
I mean, they don't frame Ulrich. Ulrich beat the crap out of Helgi, misfigured him, destroyed his ear, and left him in the bunker.
They assume he killed those other 2 kids.
Right, because it's 1953, and they find him there on the steps of this mansion, saying, "I needed to kill him. I had to stop it. I had to stop it. I had to do a better job. I couldn't let it get ruined again."
And then he just shuts up for 33 years playing chess, whatever, in Insane Asylum.
Yes, exactly right. So there's also something that they make mention to an Einstein-Rosen bridge, which is a passage through time. I Googled it at some point. listen, I'm not a physicist. If you want to look it up, just know that it's a passage through time.
It's just another like quantum thing.
Is it related to your Doppler word that you just said? The Doppler
Something.
expansion, I think, was the term used.
Doppler, the Doppler. The Doppler broadening.
Doppler broadening. Okay.
But Einstein-Rosenberg bridge is, I think, much more predominant sort of in current quantum mechanics. It's around, so like, I don't want to say subspace, but it almost kind of is sort of like within sort of like the quantum level of linking between two things of quantum.
Yeah, entanglements. The things exist at the same time and can sometimes in the same place or close enough, and basically a knot.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of quantum is string theory, so you have a knot there. I also saw the Ouroboros at some point. So everyone knows that the Ouroboros is sort of the cycle of birth, adulthood, death, or birth, life, death, rebirth. Sort of that cycle. But we're reminded it's not dualism, it's the triquenta, and there's nothing without the third dimension. There's no up and down. There's a wormhole that connects the three dimensions and not two, the past, the present, and the future. Not really sure that's how dimensions work, but again, I'm not really sure that's how dimensions work. And since it's mostly theory, I'm not sure anyone does. See Interstellar for excellent reference, but I've learned it's not entirely excellent reference. But Matthew McConaughey should have been spaghettied like a ship, but he wasn't. But anyway, there were some strange things that added to the confusion for me. Regina, Tiedemann, Fancy Pants family. They still have the power plant is still operating. Seems like that's the big job in town. Yes, it's winding down, but at some point she transferred, I think, a mansion into a hotel, and it was pretty clear that the hotel was doing crappy, and Regina seemed like a nasty, yucky person. But Regina, as it turns out, was more complex than that, and just that applies to every character. And Regina was also, as we learn later, was suffering through breast cancer, which was likely terminal, but we find that out over the course. And that is part of what's motivating her mother, Claudia, and yes, her father, Alexander, who, even though we met him as a likely murderer and identity thief, like, he was mostly trying to protect his family and his new life as well, try to escape, whatever he did, 33 years ago.
Do you think her cancer was related to, like, those yellow nuclear containers somehow that she ended up dealing with?
Yes, I do. But
I'm sure it could, yeah.
I mean, I think that the whole thing I think there was some warning about nuclear. I'm not sure that Regina really dealt with the canisters. Claudia dealt with them. So I don't think and Claudia wasn't sick. So I don't think, I think it's just a bad coincidence, but I think it is part of the message. I don't.
It's like a guilt complex I think she has, the fact that she, however it happened, it just seems like
karmic cancer. Everything's related. Everything's in a knot, maybe.
Her mother feels guilty, and because it feels like, Claudia is like traveling through time, like doing all this crazy shit. You're not really sure whether she's good or bad, or which side she's on. But that's the whole purpose of this whole series. We don't really know.
Right. And if people are mad saying, Jeff, you're trying to make everything mystical. No, the show purposely did this. And just let me read these couple of paragraphs to say this. I actually typed word for word, basically. They said, every 33 years, the sun and the moon's orbit is synchronized with the earth. The skies are in balance. And then, of course, I type in, I wonder if that's why Jesus was 33 and the Masons have 33 degrees in the 33rd parallel conspiracy. And then I think it's Jonas, but older Jonas, but not really older Jonas. He's still Jonas, like middle-aged Jonas, says, Jesus performed 33 miracles. There's 33 litanies. There's 33 cantos in Dante's Purgatory and 33 cantos in the Paradise. And then someone goes, it's also the age when the archetype started his rule. So, I mean, they are definitely making
those are all lines from the actual show.
Yes, they are actually making me, and I'm not sure if this is Noah doing an exposition with Jonas or if it's just Noah talking to whomever. I don't know, but they wanted me. They were talking to me right there, and they're saying, "We're distracting you, dumbass." Joey, are you leaning forward just to be comfortable? Because you have an important point to
I'm
make.
just like I'm trying to be really focused. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So Ulrich, because he wants to try to fix everything, and he somehow figures out that you can travel through time and that everything isn't insane, or it is, but he's going to harness that insanity to his, and maybe he's a metaphor for everybody else who's been trying to do that, apparently perpetually until this point. Ulrich travels to 1953. He meets his grandmother and his grandfather, who's Trante. His home was the Tiedemann home. I was not aware that Ulrich was in the Tiedemann home, but I guess he's Agnes's kid. Is that Ulrich?
I don't even know.
I'm not sure who the father is. I hope that it wasn't also Noah and Agnes begat their own incestuous son, but I can't rule it out. I just literally don't remember. But it's not the only incestuous relationship in this show. So I don't know. I kept thinking about the Ice-T song Ricochet, over the topology of a wormhole. That was the image that was in my mind a lot of the time. And I was originally going to use that as an outro, but I have actually two people in the music business, so I'm not going to use Ricochet's or Ice-T's Ricochet as it, but I just want everyone to know that I typed that and asterisks it just so that I could tell you that was the sound and image in my mind, was that song going over the topology of a wormhole, as you've seen on every MCU movie. All right.
So wait, Ulrich goes back as an adult, though.
Yes, he goes back as an adult, and he is put in prison, and he's institutionalized, and there he remains for 33 years. One escape attempt gets put back in, but we're skipping around. We are introduced to H.G. Tannhaus, who's a watchmaker, and I said, and physicist. That's not true. He's only a watchmaker. He's not a physicist exactly. He may be what you call an independent researcher, but we learn later he gets basically cheat codes to become the greatest or worst physicist of all time. Ines Conwald, who was the nurse, and thank God for the mole, because that's the only way I could tell whether it was young Ines, old Ines, middle-aged Ines. She got a watch that was repaired by Tannhaus, and inside it's inscribed for Charlotte, which I'm like, ooh. There's a lot about people leaving their coats in different places. The raincoat seems to be passed around. Ulrich left his coat in 1953, his 1986 style, coat in 1953.
Yeah.
It is amazing to me that nobody was really particularly interested in the side. Joey, what are those called? Those down ski jackets that we all had in the 80s. Parkas, I don't think they had those feather stuffed down jackets in the 50s. Were they all like pea coats?
Yeah.
Like heavy wool?
Yeah,
okay.
Wool coats. Yeah, or overcoats, or yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but speaking of the future, the final scene of episode 10, season 1, where Jonas wakes up in the future, right? And he gets banged in the head, and she's like, "Welcome to the future." Did you think that was Marta at the time?
Wait, who's Marta?
Oh.
You mean Martha? Oh,
Martha. I have to be honest.
I mean, it wasn't Marta, but it totally felt like it was her, didn't it?
Not only did I not think it was her, but to this time, I still have no idea who it was. I'm assuming that she was...
We know who it is now. I don't want to talk about any more spoilers.
I don't.
It just really felt like it was her, totally. Because it almost looked like her a little bit, but she had a big scar on her face, but it just... Anyway.
Okay, so I misspoke earlier. Helgi is not Tiedemann. He's a Doppler. We learned that Bernd Doppler is Helgi's father, and he is Peter's father also, who is Charlotte's husband. And we had the discussion about trans earlier. That's just a placeholder so that you remember who Peter is and who the Dopplers are.
I'm sorry. Are Peter and Helgi brothers?
No, father-son. Helgi is considered a madman in every timeline. He has his ear is destroyed, and he keeps going tick tock. It's happening again. I have to stop it.
But who is Peter's father?
Helgi.
He has kids?
Yep.
The madman has kids? See, I don't remember that.
Yeah, well, he was a nice madman, and he always had a stable job. He worked in the plant. He knew some secrets they were taking care of.
Who is Peter's mother?
I don't remember.
I don't think we know.
Mrs. Helgi?
Okay.
Mrs. Doppler?
All right.
We do at some point see a redhead kid who's dead in 1950 with another kid, and we did at some point see a redheaded kid being experimented on in that sort of what looked like an electric chair but was like a time machine.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect that was Eric from 1986 being experimented on in 1953. So I do think those two bodies were probably failed experiments from way back when, and I'm not ruling out that one of them may have in fact been, they were probably the two kids that Alexander killed in 1986 and somehow brought them.
Maybe.
And Helge recruited, likely, right?
Could be. Yeah. All right. So I keep calling people the guides, but the guide turns out to be middle-aged Jonas. So he's talking to Task. So just to cut to the cut, we have competing guides. Just leave it at this parallel hour loss. You had Jacob and the smoke monster, and they were both talking to different sides and maybe giving them half-truths or complete lies. They both thought they were working for a greater good or the righteous power, and there's more than one of them. On one side, you think that there's someone named Claudia, and that sometimes we're led to believe there's someone named Eva, which is Eve. On the other side, we're told there's someone named Adam, who has someone named Noah, who in the beginning we think Noah is the worst, scary minister who's a mass murderer, and that's not entirely untrue, but there's a lot of interconnections here. And so when I say guide, just know that I was wrong. These are just people in different stages of time, different characters, all related to this town where everybody, I guess the small town, everyone being interrelated in some way. Even the new kid in town becomes, ripped into the knot is part and part of it. Okay. Dina's going to get mad at me, but in 1953, and this is not important, but Agnes sort of seduces, I think, Ulrich's mother, and I'm like,
I'm not mad.
I'm like, in 1953, hot lesbian action, yes. So so. Listen, I'm still 15. I'm always there's always going to be that 15-year-old boy in me. All right. We learned that they
got caught, like by
Egon.
They did?
Charlotte, right?
I don't remember that.
Who was Yeah, they totally got busted by their daughter. Was it Charlotte or? Yeah, it was young Charlotte, wasn't it?
No, I think it was young Claudia.
I'm sorry, Claudia. You're right.
Yeah, we learned that Ulrich Nielsen came from an abusive family, so now we understand why he's so hot-tempered as well. And Trante's parents also weren't exactly great to Trante, who is Ulrich's father. So again, the whole cycle of abuse is revisited and revisited. Everything that happens before happens again. I'm trying to skip over things that I took as notes that are sort of irrelevant, but basically both Claudia, old Claudia, like elderly woman Claudia, and middle-aged Jonas come to see Tannhaus at different times and basically teach him how to make a time machine with a book that he penned after they provided him with his own how-to manual.
So they bring it back to him, like, from the future.
Right.
He pens it later on, right? So it's like this back and forth. Like, they're coming to him to build these things with a book that he wrote later on because they told him to build these things.
Right. And they reference these time travel conundrums as to what's cause and effect. And that's a recurring theme. Sort of like, did Michael kill himself because he thought he was stopping it, or because he thought he had to start it to stop it. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things like that. I think leaving the coats and leaving the pennies in places were also tied into that. Ulrich's coat in 1953 did, in fact, lead Townhouse to finding the invention, because he found a modern iPhone in it. And when he turned the power on accidentally on the iPhone, that activated something that we come to call the God particle, which was apparently invented way earlier, but it's easier with nuclear technology and Frankenstein-like galvanized electricity. I don't think the physics of it are important. You just need to know that some people can harness it, some people can't, and you need certain conditions to bring the God particle out, but it is what triggers, and either when it's opened itself, activated, or in some places they've made fuel pellets out of it that are portable, that can activate smaller time machines, but you need the God particle, which is not a God particle. Well, that's a different story. Which is to time travel.
I have two questions. Number one, is that a real thing, like how Doppler is a real thing, or is it just made up in this show?
Joey?
The God particle.
The God particle is the Higgs boson.
It's what?
It's called the Higgs boson.
Okay, I don't know anything about this stuff.
Oh, so that's what they made in that CERN and the Hadron Collider, right?
Yeah, it basically gives matter mass.
Okay.
Discovered it in 2018, which was actually just literally a year before they actually came up with this whole thing.
Okay.
But I think, Jeff, to your point, the fact that the iPhone is somehow it's like the center of this thing is a whole nother weird thing. It's like, wow, it's like there's the Higgs boson, God particle, whatever you want to call it, but wow, an iPhone actually enabled, by him traveling back in time with it, enabled him to create a time machine back in 86, whatever the hell, or 53, whatever the hell it was. But that was the weird thing. Because I felt like it was only getting power from the damn thing. I don't know if it was getting anything extra. It was getting, whatever, it was plugged into it. That's what it was, right?
Right.
But it's just like, wow, it's like, holy shit, that's an iPhone powering a time machine.
Right, well...
okay. Let me ask my other question. Yeah. Jeff, you watched season 3, right?
I did.
Though we're not... Okay, so I know you said, again, I hope this isn't a spoiler, but that it all makes sense at the end. But
I understand the ending. I think.
Understand it, but my question is, I didn't watch Lost, so you guys have watched Lost. Compare this to a show like Lost. Does it all come together at some point, or is all of this just like a bunch of stuff that's so confusing it doesn't make sense? I'm just wondering.
I'm gonna let Joey answer first, and then I'll answer.
Is it all going to come together, or is it all going to be like stuff that's just so hard to figure out, no matter what?
My rewatch of Lost, I'll go first, like you said, Jeff.
I don't want to know
feels like it actually did come together. When I watched Lost real time back,
it comes together.
Or felt like it didn't. This is a little bit different. It's I think it's going to be a little bit. Remembering, I haven't finished rewatching it again, but my perspective of Lost is totally different than it was back when I originally watched it, only because of doing initial research. And I know it's controversial, but it is what it is.
I mean, I think it's supposed to be controversial.
Well, I know they're not the same show, but does this make sense at some point, or is it a bunch of nonsense?
let me answer it this way. Lost is a more compelling television show. It's more interesting. While I think it came together at the end, I think reasonable minds can differ. I think this was very clear what it was saying, but that doesn't mean that you know how The Sopranos ended, and Tony Soprano, he's either dead or he's not, and most people think he's dead, but you could make a case that maybe he's not. Anyway, I think that this ending was very clear as what they were trying to tell you. I don't think it's got the Lost kind of debate argument. So we'll see if everyone agrees. I mean, Joey agrees, and but it's possible that we agree for different reasons. So we'll find out. I don't know when.
Right. I just feel like there's so many parts to this show that it seems almost like impossible that.
I don't think watching Lost will help someone enjoy the show more, understand it more. In fact, it may make...
that. I'm just wondering, like, to me, even if there's some aha moment at the end, there's so many different parts to this show that just don't seem to connect or make sense.
Well,
like, did they do that on purpose, or did the writers know what they were doing and they understand it and we're just not getting it? That's all I'm wondering. Like,
I think it does make sense. I mean, I think that there are loose ends that are not tied neatly, but I think overall it does make sense, even if we don't understand things.
I mean, from a perspective that there's time travel and all this crazy shit going on, it just once you suspend that, I think it does. From my remembering of it. It does wrap up a lot nicer, I think, than Lost did, in my opinion.
Right. They don't make it easy. There's a lot of parts.
Well, even when you watch season 1, I mean, season 1 didn't end in a way that you felt like, it's like, what the hell? All of a sudden he's like getting battered in the head in the future.
Yeah.
It's like you were dealing with 3 timelines, right? Of like 2019, 86, 53, bam, all of a sudden now he's like 23.
Another one. Yeah.
It's like, what the hell's going on? And then all of a sudden you're in 23. So it just kept piling on in different ways. But I think also that they're doing like pre-telling of stories that already existed that, maybe they didn't know what the hell they were doing while they were writing it because they didn't think about they were going to get a second season, a third season. It's like, all right, let's create another timeline. And it was like, bro. So, but I think they did as good of a job, I think, as you could expect. So,
with one caveat. If they did better casting, and by the way, young Katarina, teenage Katarina, and middle-aged Katarina, perfect, excellent. If they tried to do what Yellow Jackets did with the casting of different age groups, it would be so much easier. I mean, I think they tried to make up for it with things like the penny, with the jacket, with the pocket watch, and a dog named Gretchen, but that didn't help me because I was still figuring out who was who, and to this day, I still get Tiedemann Doppler, Townhouse, who's this, who's that? I mean, part of it is because I stopped watching 3 weeks ago, but I don't know. Just know that everyone is interconnected, and some of them come out of some sort of sin, either an affair. There's innuendo about rape, unintentional incest. I mean, everything that's there probably happened. What we do need to know is that Noah, who rarely changes age, though he does a little bit, is assisting Helgi in building what I described as the electric chair, which is a time machine in the shelter, which they call the Ark, but it's just the bunker. And they call it the Ark because he's Noah. And again, I think they're trying to make things deeper than they need. I think they got too clever with themselves, because if your audience is someone like me, you took me down like 1,000 rabbit holes I don't need to. Now, if your goal was to make people have to watch the show 17 times to reconcile it, okay, but I'm not doing that. Anyway, Noah says at some point, which is weird from a guy named Noah, there is no God, there never was, there's just pain and chaos. So again, he's trying to get me like all mystical and shit. And I'm just getting... So they're trying to build... Anyway, the goal is they're trying to build this time machine to eliminate evil from the beginning and the end, because we don't know where things begin and end. And basically, everything that we've seen is related to unsuccessful attempts in these 3 time zones to untie the knot, to cut it either from the beginning or the end, that are one and the same. But we are also told that this has been happening forever and ever in eternity, retrospectively. Joe, can you add to that? Nope. Okay. All right. Claudia, we learn as a child she is a Bartosz, or she's Bartosz's grandmother. Regina is Bartosz's mother. Bartosz is Martha's boyfriend when Jonas disappeared after he was institutionalized after his father killed himself. But he wasn't institutionalized for very long. It turns out it was just a couple of months. But Jonas and Martha shared a kiss on a beach once, but when he went away, Bartosz moved in, but everyone's okay with it. They understand. They're kids and stuff happens. But it's more complicated than that, and we'll find out later. But Bartosz is positioned as sort of like the bad guy kid or one of the bad guy kids, but he's really not. It's just he comes from a rich family, and turns out his father runs the nuclear plant, so you think he's evil, but he's not entirely evil. But he's not entirely good. His mother's dying from cancer. His grandmother may or may not have hid nuclear waste for the second time. Well, she absolutely hid nuclear waste for the second time. She the second time, someone else, I think, the first time. Like they were moving it back. I think they had to move it first because they put the nuclear waste in the breaking ground area, and that was being dug up when they found like bodies of kids, so they moved it again back into the nuclear plant. And so we have a bunch of that, and I kept calling the box Archimedes box. Again, that was me trying to be clever. It's not. It's just the time machine box. It's just the Tannhaus, Doppler expansion machine. The point is that Bartosz gets recruited by Noah and joins Team Noah, which turns out is Team Adam. I'm going to stop there.
He almost becomes like the new Helge that's recruiting the people to feed into the machine, right?
Exactly. Everything is being cycled, and they need more people to experiment with. Why they're always choosing teenage boys, I don't know. They never choose girls, I don't know. They never really get into that because there's as many females as important pivotal characters as there are males. Maybe Team Noah, because their leader is a man, thinks that. Maybe that's part of his conceit or his mistake, or maybe just boys are stupid and they find them wandering around in the woods more easily and can victimize them. I don't know. Again, I don't think that that's particularly important. Again, I could be entirely wrong about that. But a lot of this is triggered by deceased Mads continually sort of popping up in places where, like either in the Ark, the bunker room, and being discovered. And every time Ulrich is sort of called into action and does all the wrong things for, I guess, the right reasons. It's around this time that we learn that Claudia, old Claudia, is sort of like a counter to Noah and middle-aged Jonas. Younger Jonas and middle-aged Jonas are not exactly on the same page. Ever. Older Claudia and middle-aged Claudia at some point seem to be on the same page, but it's a bit of a journey for Claudia. And being that she was one of my least favorite characters, I wasn't that invested in her journey, and that probably failed me in some regard in following things.
Well, they don't make her very endearing.
They do not. And she seems like she just wants power at any cost, and the blackmail thing. She also looked absolutely nothing like her younger self. It was disconcerting. The older version of her also looked absolutely nothing like her. I mean, I can't complain about this enough. I mean, I get that there's a budget and there's probably like 63 German actors total, but come on.
Yeah.
All right.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Much better with the Catarinas. Another sort of red herring or MacGuffin is that Mikkel, young Mikkel, as a boy, was obsessed with magic, to the point that he would wear his costumes and magic outfits into the woods with his friends, or his brother's friends, or his brother and sister's friends. They were close age. Marta and her older brother is Magnus, and Mikkel was the younger brother, Ulrich and Katarina's kids. Ulrich and Katarina were like the cool kids but bad kids in high school. Like he was like sort of the greaser, and she was sort of like the mean girl, but probably a cheerleader also. And Hannah was her best friend, but she sort of bullied Hannah, and Hannah was always in love with Ulrich, and obviously still is because she's having an affair with Ulrich. We already talked about that. But Mikkel, he does magic tricks that is sort of a little bit of Schrodinger's boxish, which of course then brought me back to Lost. Again, it's just to show you that Mikkel is into magic and gets physics and things like that, but it was, again, a MacGuffin. We
see that there's two of the Tannhaus machines, but they're in very different conditions. One is the beginning, one is the end. We're told that it operates on something called cesium-137, and that there's a Higgs field, which you just told us what that is. Is cesium-137 a real thing, Joey?
It's just a nuclear waste from a power plant.
There you go. So it creates the Higgs field, which actually you told us before, but I took the notes. It says it increases mass to create a black hole, like a nuclear power plant F up. I also typed, though we never really got that F up exactly. 2019, Helgi tells 1986 Helgi to stop listening and stop helping Noah. He's not the chosen one. He's pure evil. But remember, Helgi's a simpleton, and he's not exactly right, but we understand his perspective. But we think that he's the person you should be listening to, that nobody's listening. Are you raising your hand, or are you just trying to mirror the triangle behind you?
I'm just rubbing my eye.
That was
I think you started me.
yeah, I was.
I was like trying to align my arms
with your image. So
the pyramid.
So our Joey,
Right.
that's right. Our Joey, his background actually is a Dark Side of the Moon Pink Floyd flag.
Oh, yeah.
So
this is like a real.
right.
It's like really on the wall.
Right. Well, this is audio only, so don't worry about that. But it's, for those who don't know, it's a prism and it's a triangle. There's some physics going on with light. Anyone who hasn't seen the cover,
It's also a good pride flag too.
it serves so many it's so multifunctional. But it's also sort of serendipitous for this show. Yeah, I don't know about little Roger Waters' connection to anything good, but that's a different story. All right. So I don't want to get into all the details that I typed, but basically Jonas explained, or the Wanderer explained that the time machine doesn't work. That is Jonas, because then I figured out that Jonas is the Wanderer and it's Jonas Conwald. So, at this point I realized that Jonas was, and Jonas is sure, middle-aged Jonas, that young Jonas needs to destroy the black hole. Why middle-aged Jonas, who's there, can't do it, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, these are some of the things that don't make sense to me, but okay. And then he keeps talking about there's no free will and there's the same path over and over again. And I'm wondering, if there's the same path over and over again, what makes you think you're doing anything differently this time?
Right. That's true. Because if they say it's the same thing over and over and there's no free will, what makes them think they can do something different to change it, right? That's like pretty contradictory.
Absolutely. And we get lots of scenes and segments which seem very important, where basically characters are trying to prevent their younger selves or other characters from doing what they think is pivotal to keep the cycle from happening. None of it works. It's one of those paradoxes. I actually typed this at the time during season 1. I didn't go back afterwards, and I put in parentheses Dark Tower / Battlestar Galactica, which are two of my favorite, things cycle paradoxes, though I have a theory about the Dark Tower that actually each time he gets a little bit closer, but that's a different topic for a very different series of shows. Turns out that sometimes, and maybe Joe, who knows the physics better than I do, can tell me when the black hole triggers this giant black dome over the nuclear plant, and like the surrounding town, sort of like, well, not the entire surrounding town. There is a cordon off area, but it doesn't happen every time people travel through time.
I don't know that it's really linked to physics, but it's weird because it happens in the cave, right, at a much smaller scale, right, and then it happens the same dimensions over the power plant. Right. So I don't know what would possibly explain that, but I think the key is that, so future Jonas hopes to turn the machine on to destroy the whole cycle, but in essence actually starts the cycle, which is really just, that I think is the whole thing that ties everything back together again. But I think as far as that unraveling of it, it's just good cinematographics. I don't know that it really makes much physics sense.
Fair enough. And so at this point, since I'm still desperately trying to find parallels that I can understand, at this point I likened old Claudia to Sarah Connor from The Terminator. again.
That's a good, I like it.
Well, it didn't turn out so well, but it helped me. We see at this point 9-year-old Helge and teenage Jonas touch and swap times between 1953 and 1986. Jonas is led to his father's family tree board in the bomb shelter in 2019 or sometime in the future. We see what could be snow, but to me, it's pretty clear that it's a nuclear fallout aftermath, probably under the dome or caused by the dome or something, whatever, something went. And then we basically, there's 2 young women. Well, one is not so young. She's probably, I'd say, early 30s. Her face is scarred. She looks to be in charge. And another young girl who you were asking about, who you thought that might have been Martha. She did look a little bit like young Hannah, but clearly she wasn't. And she takes the butt of automatic rifle and knocks Jonas out and says, "Welcome to the future." Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if they told us this or I just did the math, but they are now Jonas is now in 2052. That was the season finale. Pretty cool, but the first thing I thought is, wait a minute. This is adding a fourth 33-year. Mm-hmm. And why I figured that out and none of the characters in the show figured this out, I don't know, because I think right there and then they told us something. But I guess they sort of didn't, because past when people went into different time zones or time periods, time did advance regularly. But clearly, whatever was they were trying to avoid, Jonas failed to. He thought by blowing up like the doorway or the hatch, sort of a la Lost when they blew up the hatch. Again, I was desperately trying for parallels, that they thought they solved the riddle of the island, but they didn't. That's when Jonas thought he destroyed the hatch, the door. All he did was destroy one way to get to the portal easily, not even get to the portal period. And the future was clearly not changed, or not changed enough to avoid an apocalypse, which the implication is that it's worldwide, but we never really get out of the nuclear power plant and Windham or Whedon or whatever it's called. That is the end of season 1. You guys want to talk about on broad strokes? Did I leave out anything that's important? Did I just talk too much and you guys need your turn? I don't know. I feel sort of...
No, I mean, I didn't take any notes, so I'm glad you talked this much and took all those notes.
Okay.
I just watched it and I didn't,
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the end of season 1. I mean...
So, Joe, when early on when we were texting back and forth on the show, you said, you were saying that it makes sense to do 3 shows because the seasons have sort of 3 distinct phases of Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. What would be your summation of Act 1 or season? What theme were you referring to?
Well, I'll come back to kind of like the Godfather saga. It's really like it's these 4 families and how they're intermingled in ways that we have no idea when it first starts, because It doesn't start in chronological order. So if you think about it, we just watched all season 1, but we didn't watch it in chronological order. We started in 2019 with this guy hanging himself. Why did he do it? Then we're in the future, the past, and it's crazy. And then we're finding out how everyone's intermingled. So it's like Big Bad is really, to me, how I really just think about this more than anything else. It's like you almost got to think about it and just rewire your brain and say, what really happened between 1953 and now 2052, where whatever hell Jonas ended up getting knocked in the head, or even if you leave that out, and think of how everything happened, right? And how did Nickel end up sort of in a loop and whatever the heck happened. And then as you get into the next seasons, is like expand that. Stop thinking about how you're watching it in order, but how does it really play out chronologically? Because that's really the way I think it makes the most sense to me. So anyway, I'm just reiterating from my opening statement, it's like chronologically is the way that it actually happened. It's not the way it's told.
Right.
So
it was worlds building through the characters in a, I think purposefully circuitous way. I have a feeling that if it was in German and I spoke German and was familiar with German names and things like that, it would have been a lot easier to follow. But yeah, I think that you're right. This was the world's building or the world building, but through the generations and letting us know who the characters were and letting us know at least part of the intermingling, because certainly more is revealed, a lot more.
And certainly, it wouldn't be as interesting if it was told in chronological order. Right? It evolving the way it does makes it a lot more interesting and just exciting to see what's happening and to see the different, characters go back and forth. And you try to figure out who people are, but they're not actually telling you, so to speak. Like, is that Katarina or whatever else? Like, what's going on? So I think that it adds to the drama of it by it bouncing back and forth. And you have to figure it out.
Can it also, it can't really be told in chronological order because they're going back and forth.
Yeah.
Right?
But you have to rewire your brain of thinking about.
No, I know, but I'm saying, right? Like, if you, right, you can think about it that way. But what I'm saying is, I don't think they could have shown it that way because
absolutely,
it doesn't go in chronological order. They're going back and forth all the time, or some of them are.
Yeah, you would also know exactly how things are going to play out and that all their efforts have failed, where I think as we're watching it, we don't know if their efforts are going to fail or not, or if they're just going to lead to different alternate pathways that are, just as bad or similarly. So,
Almost to the point when they come out of the cave, it's like trying to say, is that the 86 cave? Is it the 53 cave? Is it the 19 cave? Like, is there like a sofa sitting there?
Right.
The sofa means it's the 2019 cave, or is there a gate there, or whatever, a fence? So it's like just so you could, as you see something pop out of the cave, it's like when the hell? Not like almost like what Nichols says. Not where are you? When are you? That was the whole thing when he was doing the whole thing with the cops, right? It's not where are you? It's when are you? I think that was one of the key things that keeps popping up. It's like the whole thing. It's about time and space being sort of immaterial, and you can actually interchange the two.
Right, and folks, it gets. There's more in future seasons. I'm gonna leave it there. I don't think I can add a possible thing that I haven't already pontificated on. So, which of you wants your original music to be the outro, and which of you has a song that you associate with this show or the rambling conversation that I led in my own inimitable way? I love saying inimitable.
I could think of a song.
Yeah, just
tell you which one to use.
Yeah, you can send it to me. You don't need to be on the clock right now, but Joey, you're on the clock for episode 2.
Actually, if I had to pick a song, not my original song, I think because I was thinking of Donnie Darko, I really like the song by Gary Childs. All around me are familiar faces, born out with Mad World. I would go with Mad World for this. If we had to pick a cover. Not Tears for Fears version of it, even though I think they use that in the episode. The more mellow version of Gary Childs' piano.
Well,
use one of your original songs.
Right.
Well, let me think of one, and then if I think one that's good. If not, we'll use what you said.
Well, folks, we didn't actually do like real formal introductions at the beginning of the show, but that's because both these folks can have like projects and stuff. So DIna, we'll start with you. Tell people who you are, where they can find you, your various projects. You are an artist in both the physical means and in the musical means. You actually have albums and perform gigs and stuff like that. So
all right. Yeah. So my name is DIna. I obviously grew up with these guys. I live in New York City. I have a band called Pre-War Yard Sale. 2 words, pre-war and then yard sale. You can search it online, listen to all our music. Somehow my Facebook page is missing, which is a whole other story, so you can't find me on Facebook. I'm also an artist. You can look me up too. I go under the name DIna Inks. And that's it. Okay.
Joseph, a little bit about yourself.
I'm Joey Restivo or Joey Umlaut on other social media, but just generally speaking, I'm kind of semi-retired, and I am in a tribute band for the Doors, which we call Rushton Motel, because the lead singer his name is John Rushton, and we figure we're not quite a hotel because we're a little, lower school, so we're a motel. So anyway, we've been out playing around town, playing different places, and big Doors fan and a Pink Floyd fan, so we play some Pink Floyd too.
Well, where's the town?
On open mics, but I don't really do a lot of gigging outside of that.
Okay, all right. So, but they did want to see you. Where you're in North Carolina, right?
I'm sorry, I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Okay, there you go. Flare country, woo! All right, and Horseman country. All right, that's for my other audience. All right. Thanks, everyone. I don't know what the outro is going to be, but it's probably going to be from DIna. By the way, the name of your band fits very well with this show of sorts. You guys let me know when you're both finished with season 2 and ready to go, and we'll figure something out. Probably won't be on Sunday. It'll probably be some weird night at some very weird time when we're all sleepy, and maybe we'll go less time. All right, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Circle sky. Goodbye, hello, goodbye. Son of a son, of a son, of a son, of a son. Moonbeam, Luna dream, wane, wax wane. Son of a son, of a son, of a son, of a son, son of a son, of a son, of a son.